Hello everyone and welcome to the review of the ENGWE M20. And I must tell you that this bike is a bike that I have wanted to test since it was announced, because it has a really nice design and it resembles, yes indeed, some other model. I'm not going to mention that model, but the design of this bike, it's really nice. So yes, it looks like another one, but I wanted an option. I wanted a bike that it has good performance, but it also it's been priced correctly. So in comparison with that other model, this one is a lot more cheaper. It looks stunningly good, and hopefully it will perform as good as it looks, and we are going to test all of that today. So let's talk first about some of the technical specification of this bike. It features a hub motor. It's a geared motor that has a one-way clutch. It means that the internal motor spins a lot more faster than the wheel spins, so you get actually a lot more torque than a similar model of motor that is a direct drive and has the same power. The motor is rated for 750 watts nominal, but it peaks out to more than that, and it has a very good torque because of those gears. The powertrain is fueled, but not fueled, supplied with power by this removable battery. This is a 30 amp battery. You might say that it's not a lot, but ENGWE can sell this bike in a more expensive option, and instead of getting this nice case bag here, you get a second battery that's identical with this one, and you can fit it on top of the frame. So you get two batteries, both removable, both rechargeable of course, and you get double the range with that combination. But if you want to pay a bit less, you don't mind the reduced range, and you want a lighter bike, you can opt in for the single battery type. What it's also nice is that the battery is not proprietary, so you can actually replace it very easy. It's designed similar with the high long battery, or hey long, or call them whatever. It's a battery that fixes on a rail. The rail only has several screws here, and you can buy a rail and a bigger battery from almost everywhere, and you can replace this with something like 20 amps, 27 amps, something huge that goes all the way in. Or you can get a second battery that's not proprietary branded. You can get any kind of other type of battery and fix it here. What is interesting that there is no wiring here present for the second battery, so there must be a small magic thing that you get from ENGWE when you get the two battery version. Beside the really nice design, you get a full suspension e-bike that has a really nice shock absorber in the front, which is adjustable and lockable from this switch here. You can adjust the compression preload, but if you go to the maximum, you can lock it and it turns into a locked suspension. And on the rear, you get a simple but very effective suspension system with a swing arm and lots of treble with this one. And if you are comparing this with the other ENGWE models, you no longer have that arm that flexes and another suspension here. So that's more complicated to have that articulation. This one is very simple. You just have here a shaft, and all this is one single piece, and it compresses this shock absorber here. It makes it more simple, uses less parts, less bolts, less issues, less friction, more simple and less weight, and works very good in this type of configuration. As for build resistance, it's also interesting because you get these two pipes here that go around the saddle. There are two pipes that go through the front and they are welded there, and you have a plate welded between them to fix the extra battery, but it gives a lot of strength to the top frame. Then you have this part here that's not only for design, but this is very important for the structure of the bike. So the whole weight here, it's taken over this whole part here, and it's the same on the other side. Then you get a reinforcement here, so it makes the frame a lot more stronger, while this part here, the flexible one, that's comes with the wheel and suspension. Besides having the normal part here, it also has a reinforcement here that gives it a lot more strength, while the part that holds the shock absorber, this one is from one single piece, and this single piece that holds the suspension shock is welded on the frame. Same here, where this eyelet of the suspension fixes the shock absorber, is one single piece that is welded to the frame, so that gives it a lot more strength. So they are not just the eyelets fixed on the frame, but the eyelets are one single piece that is fixed to the frame. That's very important. The front suspension is also massive. You get this dual type suspension, so it's fixed top and fixed bottom. You have these long pipes that go down to the wheels. This gives a lot of strength to the suspension, front suspension. And there are also some other improvements that I like. So ENGWE is paying attention to the details. For instance, they are starting to use grommets everywhere. So if a cable passes to the frame of the bike, they have used rubber, so the cables will not rub onto the frame and get cut by that or worn out. So that's really good to see it. And this applies to all the areas such as this one. So where cable pass through the frame, they are protected. Also here where they have used zip ties just to keep the cables more well looking, they also have used spiral in several places, so they keep them tied up and then fixed with zip ties. So overall it looks better. The stock battery is also interesting, as besides having a quick battery gauge test here that has LEDs and will show you the battery level without turning on the bike, it also has here a main power on off switch, so you can power this off when you are not using it for a longer period of time to save battery and not accidentally turning it on. And beside the charge port here, that's easy to access, you also get a USB port, so you can charge something on USB directly from the battery. And that's nice because you don't get the USB charger that you get on the display, which is closer to maybe a phone holder, but this battery is easy to remove. It has a key lock on the other side. So the advantage is that you can take the battery with you. You can take it out quickly from the frame, but you can use it, for instance, if you are going camping or something like that. You can take the battery off, take it with you, leave the bike somewhere, and you can power your mobile from this battery directly. The gear system is rather basic. It's a 7-speed Shimano gear set with a turn-aid derailleur, and it has a shifter here. You know this model from most of the ENGWE bikes. You have the plus here and minus lever here. It changes the gear, it does the job. It's good. It doesn't need more maintenance than other ones. It's simple to adjust. On the other side of the handlebar, you are going to get the display. It's a Yolin display. It has the annoying protection that you get on other ENGWE models, such as the L20. This is almost impossible to take off, so you need to actually put some tape over it and then peel it off. Otherwise, you are going to break your fingernails and you are not going to take this off without using the force. The main advantage of the display is that, like on other Yolin models and ENGWE controllers, you can do some quick tuning, such as enabling or disabling the speed limit on this bike and enabling or disabling the throttle. Talking about the throttle here, it's a full twist throttle, similar with the motorbike ones. So you no longer get a partial twist throttle or a push throttle. So you have to live with that. It's not my favorite type of throttle, but that's how it is, and it somehow integrates with the bike design, which tends to be more of a motorbike than an electric bicycle. The brakes on the ENGWE M20 are the standard ones. They are cable pulled single acting brake pad ones. They use 160mm discs, but they do a proper job on this bike because although it's heavy, it's not very heavy, it's not super heavy, and it will stop you. You can actually lock the wheels while you ride this bike with no problem, so they have enough stopping power. but they need constant maintenance such as adjustment, because that's how this type of brakes work. And now, lastly but not least, the headlamps. They are from outer space. They are probably the most greatest looking headlamps that you get on an e-bike. ENGWE really outdid themselves with this one. So you get DRL, so you get these LED light strips. On the camera you are not going to see them very well because the camera somehow adjusts and makes them really dull. They are really bright and they stand out, and they turn on together with the bike. So when the bike is turned on, they will light up, and you get here a light switch, and when you press the light switch, they are going to turn the main beams on, and they have big lenses there, and both of them will light up together. But the DRL is also going to be lit up, and you really make a lot of light with them. And the best part of them is that you can also adjust them independently, so not only together like that, but you can also do something like this. So one will light lower, one higher, and that's very good because they are going to give you a better light projection over the road. So this one for closer light and that for further light. You are going to be seen by the DRL, and the headlamps themselves really light up things. Okay, so enough with the talk. Let's ride the bike. Let's see how it goes. As an idea, I have 87 kilograms, and I have a backpack that also has something like 4 or 5 kilograms today, so pretty heavy. So you get the idea of how the bike performs with my added weight on it. So let's see. When you start the bike, hopefully you are going to see something on the screen. The position is rather interesting on the bike, maybe a bit weird. There was a lot of talk about this bike, if it's good enough for tall people or for short people or whatever. I have something like 170 something centimeters, so 1 meter and 70 centimeters, 75 centimeters, somewhere around that. So I'm not very tall, not very short. It's going to be interesting to have a fixed seat like this bike provides. Definitely I feel that I'm rather low on this bike, but the handlebar is up, and it gives me this really nice stable sensation that I'm on a motorbike, on a chopper or something else, not an e-bike, but makes me feel comfortable and very safe because both my legs are on the ground, and I can hold the bike steady. Right, so it's on 0 assisted mode. I'm going to select 1 assisted mode, and let's give it a bit of pedal. And I'm on 6th gear here, so let's go to gear 1 actually, and this goes rather easy. Let's try it with 0 assistance. Can I pedal this bike sitting? I can pedal it, but the sensation is really strange because indeed I'm sitting actually a bit too low to be comfortable pedaling this uphill with no motor assistance. So if I switch it to gear 1, this gets a lot more better. Keep in mind that the bike is now fully unlocked, throttle is enabled, and the default settings that I have the bike with makes it go really fast and powerful. So I can do something like 25 kilometers per hour in gear 2, in assisted gear 2. So this thing gets very fast, very quickly, even just being assisted. So I'm already doing now 30 kilometers per hour off-road, and it's just in assisted gear 2, which proves that this motor really has a lot of torque. So now I'm going to go to 5th gear, the maximum one. I'm going to stop here where the ground is level. From here, and now from standstill, I'm going to get it full throttle to see the acceleration and top speed. So let's go. No pedaling this time. And you can hear the motor and the tires. And I already have 30, 35. It's still going strong. 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. And it was probably going to reach 43. So it gets really fast to 40 kilometers per hour, and from there it needs some time to accelerate over. So let's try it again. 32, 35, 38, 40, 41, 42, and from now it's uphill and off-road. And talking about off-road, I must tell you that this M20 by far is the most comfortable ride on an ENGWE e-bike. So the suspension works brilliantly, both to front and rear shock absorbers. It's perfect. It rides really nice. So this is superb. It also gives you a lot of stability and control, and the bike handles are like there is no bumps in the road, so the wheels just follow the terrain and give you very good traction and control. So I'm really amazed how well this shock absorber works, and the rear suspension, even though the rear suspension uses the same old cheap shock absorber that has no adjustments whatsoever. It's just a cheap shock absorber. In this configuration, with that simple suspension, with no longer having all those arm and complications, make this suspension work a lot more better. And it's somehow, I don't know, it's like it's tuned for this bike and for my weight. It simply rides really nice, and with the low position of the saddle, you really have a stable, comfortable feeling, and you can attack all kinds of terrain with this. I would not say that you need to go off-road with this one, but it feels so good riding somewhere else that hasn't had asphalt, and you feel so nice on the seat. You feel that it's stable, you feel that it's secure. So I'm doing 40 kilometers per hour here, and I will not do that in any of my other bikes, because I will not feel that I'm secure on them, because they are going to jump all around, they are going to shake, and they are going to rattle. This is a whole other kind of level when it comes to riding the bike on rough terrain. Not very rough, but not the city asphalt type of roads. So I'm really enjoying this, and it rides so smooth. As for the brakes work brilliant, although they are the same cheap brakes that ENGWE puts on their bikes, the cable ones. I'm going to call them cheap because they also use hydraulic brakes on some of their models, such as the Engine Pro. I don't know why they haven't used those brakes on this bike. It would have gave it a more premium feel, but nonetheless, with these cable ones, you have enough stopping power and have good control for the size, the shape, the geometry, the weight, and the dynamics of it. So they are going to stop you without any kind of problems. And now let's do another test. So it's going to be a pedaling gear test, gear range test. So I'm not using any assistance, any power, no acceleration. I'm on first gear, and on straight asphalt I can pedal at 9 kilometers per hour. Yes, it's sad, it's slow, but I don't put much effort into it. Although you might see my knees in the video, the position for pedaling is not optimum, because on a real bike where you need to pedal, you should be a bit more up so you don't bend your knees upward that much, because that's not going to be very comfortable if you want to pedal much more than I'm pedaling. So position is not perfect. Right, so let's change another gear. I'm on second gear. I already feel a lot more resistance, but doing that straight road, I get 12-13 kilometers per hour. It's still okay. It's not going to kill me, but I'm pedaling rather fast now. So let's try third gear. Third gear, I feel that it's putting too much resistance for me, so my speed is actually getting slower. So on third gear I need to put assistance level 1 activated, and oh, that's such a release. The bike now makes me ghost pedal, and I'm doing 33 kilometers per hour, so I need to change to fourth gear. I'm still ghost pedaling. Fifth gear, I'm still ghost pedaling. Sixth gear, and on sixth gear I'm no longer ghost pedaling, and I'm doing something like 23 kilometers per hour assisted. Now I'm pedaling rather okay. I'm not putting a lot of effort into it. It's pleasant, even though I'm using this position. My knees don't suffer at all. I don't feel any kind of effort on the knees. So I'm doing a bit of exercise. The bike is doing much of the driving, but it's okay. I'm doing my exercise. The bike is doing nicely. I'm doing a comfortable 23 kilometers per hour. I feel that I'm helping it a bit. Let's see what happens if I go to assisted 2 and the bike really accelerates, and I'm already ghost pedaling, so I need to go into 7th gear, the last gear, and I'm doing 28, 29 again. This is very comfortable. I'm doing 28 now, going uphill. I don't feel a lot of effort, but again I feel some resistance, so I'm not ghost pedaling anymore. I put some effort into it. My knees are still okay, so I can keep this rhythm for a lot more, and I'm not going to get tired. So if I want to do something like 30 kilometers per hour, I can do it assisted. But who rides such a beast on 30 kilometers per hour? You just go to 5th gear, where you are just going to ghost pedal like crazy, but we have throttle, and with the throttle we have fun. And even the steepest hill that I can use right now are something like a joke for this bike. Yes, you do get a slowdown, but this bike has a lot of torque, and it's going to go uphill without any kind of problems. So the motor really is great. And same for the controller power level. It also accelerates pretty fast. You get to 30 kilometers per hour almost right away, and from there it just keeps on going and going and going. And now some more testing. So let's see how it rides in the forest, because here we need more control. There are more bumps, and again this has amazing comfort, stability and control, and generates a very safe ride. You feel very safe on it. It's very interesting to have such a feeling on a bike. This is by far not close to a bike, and you might observe that I'm not pedaling much because I don't need to. I'm lazy today because this bike, let's be honest, is not made for pedaling. Nonetheless, as you can see, this is also very agile. And that acceleration, the motor torque are brilliant riding it this way here. By the way, you might hear a knocking noise. The knocking noise will be referred to later in the pros and cons. I'm going to explain you what makes that noise. Nothing serious for now. And I really like the noise of this. The tires with the motor give it a specific sound, which is awesome. And down we go. And you might say that this is probably turning into an off-road review, and this is not an off-road bike, but this bike is so capable that I actually don't have something interesting to show you on asphalt, because on asphalt it drives simply like a 45 km/h limited motorbike. This is completely something else. So it drives really nice everywhere, and you can ride it on a field through grass, no issues whatsoever. It drives so nice. I can barely adjust the throttle. The throttle is very sensitive, so I just give it tiny amounts of juice, otherwise it will simply take off, and I don't want to do that here. But it really has super power, super torque, and again the suspension works way too nice for this model. And now it's time for the final conclusions and the pros and the cons, because there is no such thing as a perfect e-bike. There's always room for improvements, so we're going to talk about all those details. So starting with the pros, I truly enjoy the suspension. Both the front and the rear suspension works extremely well on this model, and combined with the low position of the saddle and low frame, it gives you very good stability. And with the raised handlebar, you get awesome position for riding this, but for riding it, not for pedaling it. And here comes the most asked question about this bike: can you pedal normally on this? Well, no and yes. If you want an e-bike that makes you perform like a cyclist, and you really enjoy doing Tour de France, or going shopping in the next city for 50 kilometers, and you want to keep a cycling rate of cadence of, I don't know, you just want to pedal it out, then don't get this bike. I'm going to be honest, this is not a bike that you go for pedaling and you have a fixation for pedaling a e-bike. This is an e-bike that rides nicely if you ride it on assisted mode and not very fast. You can do 20, maybe 25 km/h in assisted mode using the gears and the assisted levels there. You can find a sweet spot where you don't put a lot of effort into pedaling and you are not going to overstrain your knees and your legs. So in the low position, you can ride it, but not perform on it. It's a big difference for that. So you can ride it, you can do some exercise, you can burn some calories, you can sweat it out, and you will not destroy your legs, so it's okay, but you are not going to do performance running on this. Otherwise, if you want to do if you want to go to work, if you want to go shopping, if you want to do your errands with it, and you will base on assisted mode and not putting effort or using the throttle mode, then this is perfect for you. It's perfect because when you have such a low seat on it, it helps you a lot in the traffic, because you can put both your legs down, you can swoop between cars with no problems, you can stop really fast, you can jump right on it. I can do that with just like this, so there's no tall frame, you don't have needs to put the bike on the side to hop on it. You can simply go over it even from the rear. So now I'm over the bike, no problem doing that, and no problem getting off. So actually this is very good for riding in the city, where you do a lot of stops and you get on and off the bike a lot of times. This is actually going to help you, and it's comfortable, and you can ride it as long as you have battery. You can ride it even at full speed. And talking about the speed, the motor, you can see the hub here, it's rather large and it has a lot of torque. It might not be the fastest motor, but it can do a solid 45 kilometers per hour in good conditions. If you don't weigh 90 kilograms and the battery is not half over, you are going to reach 45 kilometers per hour. Otherwise, you can still do comfortable 40 kilometers per hour without any kind of issues, and that's plenty of speed for an electric bike. And you may know that in European legislation that is not permitted. You are limited to 25 kilometers per hour. Then you can lock the display, put it on 25, and you are going to get an impressive range out of the battery. Other pros worth re-mentioning are the headlamps. Those are really great on this bike, and they provide a lot of light, and you can adjust them independent, so you can ride this at night time very well. Also, you get a tail lamp, which in daytime you are not going to see very well, but this is also super bright. You can see here that it lights up on black, and the sun is still up on the sky, so even in this powerful light, this still emits a lot of red light. And also it has a brake lamp, so when you touch the brake lever, just like on a motorcycle, this turns even brighter. And now for the cons, I told you about the rattle. There is a rattle when you ride this. The rattle comes from under the seat because the controller, the bike controller, is hidden in this plastic case, and I think it misses a zip tie or something, because you can see it there and it rattles. So you can zip tie this inside, so it's not going to rattle anymore. So that's one con, because they could use a zip tie and make it a lot more silent. Then the other con, which is a personal con, is that it uses a full twist throttle, which I don't like. I don't like that because when you ride the bike and you hold the handlebar and you go over a bumpy road, inevitably you are going to move your hand over the handlebar, and you are going actually to lose stability because this moves very easy. So when you try to actually hold the handlebar, you are going to get movement, and this kind of takes the riding pleasure out of your hands. I personally enjoy the half twist one or the push throttle ones, because you can have a firm grip on the handlebar and use the accelerator. Just my personal con, because there are a lot of people that like this type of throttle. Personally, I don't. So that was it for now. Be sure to follow my next uploads, where you are going to see this bike in other videos. And if you have any kind of questions, be sure to ask them, leave a comment below, and I'm going to try to answer you as fast and as best as possible. Until my next upload, see you and bye bye.